Vasudevaya. Morning, we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1, Text 32. Vrido tadasto dada eva lobo Dharma stanu dharma patosya prishtam Kastasya midram vrishano cha mitro Kukshi samudra griyosti sangha Vrida, modesty. Uttara, upper. Osta, lip. Adara, chin. Eva, certainly. Loba, hankering. Dharma, religion. Stana, breast. Adharma, irreligion. Pata, way. Asya, his. Prishtam, back. Ka, Brahma. Tasya, his. Medram, genitals. Vrishano, testicles. Cha, also. Mitro, the Mitra Varunas. Kukshi, waist. Samudra, the oceans. Giraya, the hills. Asti, bones. Sangha, stack. Translation: modesty is the upper portion of his lips, hankering is his chin, religion is the breast of the Lord, and irreligion is his back. Brahmaji, who generates all living beings in the material world, is his genitals, and the Mitra Varunas are his two testicles. The ocean is his waist, and the hills and mountains are the stacks of his bones. Purport. The Supreme Lord is not impersonal, as misconceived by less intelligent thinkers. Rather, he is the Supreme Person, as confirmed in all authentic Vedic literatures. But his personality is different from what we can conceive. It is stated here that Brahmaji acts as his genitals and that the Mitra Varunas are his two testicles. This means that as a person, he is complete with all bodily organs, but they are of different types with different potencies. When the Lord is described as impersonal, therefore it should be understood that his personality is not exactly the type of personality found within our imperfect speculation. One can, however, worship the Lord even by seeing the hills and mountains, or the ocean and the sky, as different parts and parcels of the gigantic body of the Lord, the Virat Purusha. The Virat Rupa, as exhibited by Lord Krishna to Arjuna, is a challenge to the unbelievers. Translation: modesty is the upper portion of his lips, hankering is his chin, religion is the breast of the Lord, and irreligion is his back. Brahmaji, who generates all living beings in the material world, is his genitals, and Mitra Varuna are his two testicles. The ocean is his waist, and the hills and mountains are the stacks of his bones. So continuing on, the first step in God realization, coming to the form of the Supreme Personality of God. And also here, very interestingly, Sukadeva Goswami introduces, previously also, but now he's talking about modesty and hankering, and how we can relate that to the form of the universal form of the Lord. So these are qualities. So beyond form, now we're going to qualities, and when we say qualities, we have to ask whose qualities. The quality in of itself cannot stand alone. The quality must be possessed by someone. Quality. So these qualities are modesty and hankering, to be found in the Supreme Personality of God. Therefore, he has personality. And we say the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prabhupada was very intelligent in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And not that the Supreme Godhead or the Supreme God or they added all these things. In the BDG, of course, there was all that logo with Lord Chaitanya. And what is it? Godhead is light, nescience is darkness. Where there is Godhead, there can be no nescience. It's a very wonderful logo on the top of the Back to Godhead, the Supreme Personality. So we have all sorts of aspects to the Supreme Lord. And Sukadev wants to bring the beginners to at least a form, and now he's talking about qualities, which means personality. It's not like a shadowy form in the distance or something like that, with no other idea of what that form is, but now, even qualities and personality. Just like there's the Supreme Personality, we also have personality. We have our own personalities. We have our own qualities. Indeed, of course, this is very difficult for modern science to explain where personality comes from. Of course, they have their theories, explaining in a kind of a biological way. Sometimes there's all different theories. But when you talk about personality, where you talk about atom, does an atom have a personality? Within the atom, do the electrons, the protons, the neutrons, do they have the personality? You combine the atoms together to form molecules. Is the molecule a personality? The molecules combine together to make chemicals. A chemical's personality? Where's DNA and RNA? Could you say that there's a modest electron? Or a proton that hankers? Could you say these things? Have we ever seen a hankering proton? Or a DNA with compassion, with generosity? So I mean, there's all sorts of theories, but they're presented, but they're not really satisfactory. The personality lies beyond material elements and even on the smallest, even on the largest scale. Personality is beyond the matter of the world. Actually, the personality comes from the soul and ultimately comes from the Supreme Personality, Krishna. Now here Prabhupada mentions that there are of course those who conclude that the Supreme has no personality, nor you and I have personality. This point has been made over and over again. But here he says that that Prabhupada mentions this is a misconception. So we have a concept of who we are and what is the world, and then we come to a conclusion based on a certain set of evidences that we've concluded on, and we come to a final conclusion. But it's the concept is, although it's part of it, it's not total, and it's not fully, the intelligence is not perfected. It's Prabhupada actually uses the word less intelligent. Less intelligent. If you conceive that there's no personality to ourselves and to the supreme personality. Certainly we have personality, and it doesn't just originate in chemicals. It doesn't originate in the atoms or the electrons and the protons and the DNA. And where does it originate from? Well, here is explained here in Bhagavad Gita and so many shastras that comes from the Supreme God, and it comes and is within ourselves. Of course, we are reflections. Some of these qualities, when we manifest, we cannot have the full amount of qualities of the Supreme Personality of God. That His qualities are unlimited. His personality is unlimited, and His personality we can't conceive completely of His personality, as Prabhupada explains here, with our limited senses and a limited ability to understand. But nevertheless, He has all sorts of qualities mentioned in the Nectar of Devotion. All sorts of qualities. He's forgiving. He's compassionate. He's very expert, effulgent. All sorts of things. And modesty is there. Here it is said that it can be, if you think of modesty. Now, when a person is modest, it's a nice quality. That the difference in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, He manifests all sorts of qualities, modesty, but modesty, He manifests that quality in certain circumstances, and other circumstances He's very charismatic and even maybe extravagant, flamboyant, in the way He dresses, and the diamonds and the pearls and all the jewels, all these things. Now, Krishna is so effulgent, so beautiful, that it's mentioned that He's more beautiful than the gems. Generally, people in this world, they're very limited, just their bodily form. Oh, he's so handsome, she's so beautiful, but they're not complete perfection. It is mentioned that if you look at every part of Krishna's body, the ear, the nose, the eyes, the lips, every part in of itself is very beautiful and perfect. And put them all together, the complete Krishna, He is complete. But we may have be handsome, or we may have a handsome face or a pretty face, but then our nose is too big or something like that, or our ears are too large. So, something is, we cannot have complete perfection. But Krishna has complete perfection, and not only that, even jewels that normally people would wear, say someone is wearing some pearls or some diamonds. Generally speaking, they have such an allure that people tend to look at them, before they look at look at that diamond necklace she's wearing. And the necklace is more beautiful than she is, right? Or the gold, they wear a gold chain, gold ring. Prabhupada one time explained that in gold, what is the allure of gold? And he said it's the luster of gold. The luster of gold, just the luster of it attracts people. If people wear gold, it attracts, look at that. So generally we see the gold or the diamond or the sapphire or the ruby, and it's on, someone's wearing these things, and they're more attractive than the person. They're so beautiful, they're more attractive. But Krishna is more attractive than the gems. One looks at Krishna first and then notices the gems. Whereas ordinarily we might see the gems first and then we notice who's wearing them. Oh yeah, okay. But Krishna is so attractive, and He's so effulgent. So all these qualities are in Krishna, and they cannot be just attributed to material things. They're spiritual, and just as ourselves. So this quality of modesty. Now, when someone's modest, Sukadeva Goswami specifically brings up the quality of modesty, and when someone's modest, that means they're very reserved. They're very, they're not, don't put themselves forward, even, in their speech. They're not trying to attract the attention to themselves by the way they do things, the way they talk, the way they dress, their activities. They're modest. So this is a good quality to have. But of course, to be modest, and sometimes you can't be modest. You have to do things that require you to be not modest. Especially something very difficult to attain. Sometimes modesty is not so good. Prabhupada used to say, I remember one of our devotees asked this question to Prabhupada in Melbourne, where all the Sankirtan devotees were in his room, and she was saying that Prabhupada, when I go out on Sankirtan, here at the temple I'm chanting, all nice, everything's nice. When I go on Sankirtan, I have to be kind of a bit aggressive to sell the book or something like that. I have to stop the people and then, be a little bit aggressive. And so how can you reconcile that, and then you be humble, and at the same time you have to... And Prabhupada actually said, yes, there's one saying, it's a lamb at home and a lion in the chase. So when need be, you have to exhibit. Of course, as far as the conditioned soul, it's very, because they've got no development as far as how these qualities should be used properly. So they get out of control. Even anger can be used, just like Hanuman. Hanuman was very angry at Ravana, but he controlled that anger. But when we use anger, it gets out of control and can be very devastating. So Krishna knows where to use modesty, and he displays modesty. And Krishna knows when to be aggressive, just like in the material world. When he comes at Naimitika Leela, he displays all these pastimes. We see Krishna acting very gently in some circumstances, very friendly, and very aggressively in other circumstances. Just like we were saying the other morning when who was giving class? I think Vasudeva was giving class, and then someone was it Vasudeva? I think Vasudeva. But and then I think Ram Prasad asked a question about what did he say? Oh, about Lord Ram. Wasn't it a question about Lord Ram? Were you here? Yeah, about Lord Ram and how. Oh, it was talking about the banishment of Sita. After Sita was rescued from Ravana, and then they went. Lord Ram tested her. Even then, not so much tested her, but to show the world that she was pure. She entered the fire, and the real Sita came out. But then they came back, and then and then at some point someone was talking. And then speaking ill of Lord Ram, that he's living with a woman who lived with another man, and then so Lord Ram asked Sita to go out and leave the palace and go and live with Valmiki Muni, because he was being criticised. So Ram Prasad asked, but how was all these things reconciled? The Lord can be, very gentle and very compassionate and very kind, and the next moment he's very hard. And I answered that well. The Lord displays what's needed for the particular time and place. He wanted to set an example, because an example, he needed to gain the respect and trust of the people so he could lead them nicely as the king. Lord Ram especially came to show the ideal king. Another thing is there's a Leela. It's a combination of many things. And I began to tell the story of how formerly Sita Devi, when she was a young princess living in the palace of King Janaka, that two parrots happened to fly into her room, and they were one male and one female, and they were talking about Lord Ram. They were talking about Lord Ram. So then she became very attracted, and already she was attracted, and she began to ask, where did you hear? We heard from Valmiki. Oh, you have to stay here and always tell all these stories that you've heard, but you have to stay here in my room. No, we are birds, we like to fly free, don't make us stay here. And so the male bird was, they were actually like husband and wife. Male bird was saying like that. So then Sita said, all right, well you can go, but she has to stay. Right? And she has to stay. And then his wife got angry. No, I can't. If you're sending my husband away like that, and she became angry, and and I curse you, and I'm pregnant also. The female parrot said, I'm pregnant, and you're sending my husband away. I curse you. She got so worked up. I curse you that you'll be separated from your husband when you are pregnant. Right? And then she fell down dead. She got all worked up, she just fell down dead. And then the male bird became so aggrieved by that, he became very angry and cursed her again. I will take birth again in the future, and I will speak in such a way that Lord Ram will banish you. So this is the story. So there's a connecting Leela here. So he came back later on as Krodana, the washerman, who was speaking against his wife, and then it went out, and so many others were speaking against Lord Ram. So there's a Leela connected. There are interconnecting Leelas, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, when Ram actually, after some time, then Lava and Kush were born when Sita was living in the ashram of Valmiki. And then Ram came to get Sita and to bring back Sita and Lava and Kush back to the kingdom again, to the palace, she refused. She said, I'm not going back. I've had enough of this. It's a whole nice story description there. I've had enough of all this type of treatment. I'm leaving. And it said at that point the earth opened up, and she went to it because she was like considered came an expansion from the earth, and the earth goddess came and took her back in that way. So that's the description of how she left the world. See today. So the Lord acts in so many different ways. We may not see it, manifest, and we may not understand. It's inconceivable how Krishna, be an example. Leela, there's interconnecting Leelas going on. So Krishna uses modesty. Someplace there's hankering. Hankering is his chin. So hankering can be. So all these qualities exist in the spiritual world. Modesty, hankering, just like everyone hankers to have Krishna's association. Generally, in this material world, we have hankering because it's a world of relativity and duality. There's hankering. You hanker for something. You yearn for something. You may get that thing or not get that. Then even you get it or you don't get it, then you lament. So generally, there's hankering and there's lamenting. So these qualities can actually be seen also in the spiritual world. But the difference is the love for Krishna does not decrease. Just like Radharani, she's always hankering to be with Krishna. But then when Krishna goes away, somewhere else, she laments. So you once could say, just as there's hankering and lamenting in this world, there's hankering and lamenting in the spiritual world. So what's the difference? Why should I go there? I'll stay here. Just the same. I always remember there was one devotee godbrother who was having a big argument with another godbrother and got so worked up, and that one devotee said, well, if so-and-so is going to the spiritual world, I don't want to go there. I'm not going there if he's there. Right. But the difference between all these types of things, as seemingly relativities, is the love for Krishna actually intensifies. If you can believe it, intensifies it because of that hankering and that lamenting, or even anger. Sometimes Radharani becomes angry with Krishna. He does something, but that intensifies her love for him. So she's cooking. There's one story where she's cooking for Krishna, and he did something, and she became angry, and then he came there, and she served him out, and he actually made a comment. Your cooking tastes better when you're angry. So all these things exist in the spiritual world, but the difference is there's no diminishing of attraction for Krishna and love for Krishna. Whereas in this world, these qualities can be good or they can be bad according to how they're used, and we forget not only Krishna, we forget ourselves, the spirit souls. There's all sorts of devastation. Certainly, love is not increased. When there's hate there, one feels despair. One feels, one becomes more entangled in the whole thing. But nevertheless, these qualities are mentioned by Sukadeva Goswami even for the beginner. It's getting even more specific, all the elements, and there's a form, and now there's qualities. So this is very much bringing to the forefront the personality. When someone has qualities, there's a personality there. There's a personality. So the Supreme is a person. So even in the imaginary Virat Rupa, or Virat Purusha. This is something that the beginners can meditate on. Here it is also said about Brahma generates living beings. He's the secondary creator who generates living beings. And even about the Mitra Varunas. There's Varuna and Mitra. Sometimes they act conjointly together. Here is the gentle of the Lord is Brahmaji because he is the generator. The testicles are the secretions. They're Mitra and Varuna. Mitra Varuna. Sometimes they're two deities who combine. These demigods have functions. Varuna acts to oversee the functions of water. Mitra oversees the secretions, and they also do other things, the law and order. Oversee. They do many things. It's not that they just do one thing. As one of their services happens to be that. So Mitra Varuna, Brahmaji, and Prabhupada makes the point here, of course, that all of, the Lord's not missing any bodily organs. He's not missing, okay, we have all bodily organs, but does the Lord, have all the bodily organs that we have? Of course, we manifest, there's genitals in the Lord, there's testicles in the Lord. So all these bodily, he's possessed. He's not just like a stone, as mentioned in the next purport. He possesses all the organs are present, and they're there in perfection. And we manifest these things as a reflection. The qualities are manifest as a reflection. Sometimes they're very perverted, sometimes unrecognizable. Just like, if you've got a hand with 5 fingers, if you put your hand in a glove and that glove goes in a boxing glove or something like that. You've all seen boxing gloves. So there you put in a boxing glove. So it's pretty gross. You wouldn't know there was 5 fingers or anything there. So it's a gross representation of a hand. So similarly, we manifest qualities in this world. They are a reflection, but they may be very perverted. The conditioned souls, manifest these things in a perverted way. So sometimes unrecognizable as far as the Supreme Personality of God, who has these qualities in perfection. So the Lord acts in so many different ways. In the case of, as I said, that story of Lord Ram and Sita, there's some drama created, along with the interconnecting Leela and the example of the king, and there's a drama. Drama is created. There's drama in the spiritual world, but it enhances the Krishna concept. And when Krishna comes to this world, he creates a drama. Because people in this world are especially attracted to dramas. As you are more and more conditioned, especially by the mode of passion and ignorance, you're very attracted to something, some upheaval. A journalist who was an editor also told me that, if we just ran, feel-good stories in the newspapers, we wouldn't get people buying them. Because people are attracted to some disasters. They're attracted to some disasters. If you're in your house and all of a sudden you hear, you want to run out. Oh. Apart from a concern of if there's anyone hurt, you're just interested. You're interested to see a bit of drama going on out there. So he told me that if we just ran all feel-good stories, no one would read the paper. We have to put all the disasters in, all of this and all that, all the other thing. So Krishna knows that. If it was just all nice dancing and everyone lovey-dovey type thing, probably not many people would pay attention to it. So therefore, when Krishna comes, he has to create some drama. Sita gets kidnapped by Ravana. Oh, what's going on, right? Sita and Ram were walking in the forest holding hands. Oh yeah, people. Right? But Sita gets kidnapped by Ravana. Oh, everyone jumps in immediately. So Krishna knows all these things. There's a mode of passion. Of course, those in the spiritual, but there's all varieties there too in the spiritual world. So Krishna comes, creates some drama, banishment, kidnap. How could, some people may ask, how could Krishna how could Rama allow that type of thing? Well, he creates, he wants, now instead of being attracted to the disaster and the drama of this world, well, if you're attracted to disaster and drama, at least be attracted to this disaster and drama, right? At least be attracted to the disaster that when I come and do the Leela, I can show you some disaster and drama, then be attracted to that. And Krishna's disaster and drama is far more interesting than just the normal run-of-the-mill in the material world. He creates all sorts of things, and there's so many stories you could read forever and ever and ever, and we're attracted to that. But of course, those who are very elevated, whatever is in connection with Krishna, they're attracted to. It's not that they lose interest because it's just too feel good or too nice or too lovey-dovey or something like that. They're attracted to. I always remember in my early days, I was in Auckland and someone came into the temple. He was with Tushta Krishna and Siddha Swarup's group, and there was the picture of Lord Nrsingadev, Jvala Nrsinga, he's tearing apart Hiranyakashipu, pulling it, and he's got the intestine draped around his neck. Now, what sort of more drama could you want than that? He said, "Oh, why do you need to keep this up in the temple here? It's too heavy." He said, "It's just too heavy. People are going to come in, they're going to see it, they're going to run out the door." I said, "Well, yeah, all right. There's a point there, but at the same time, and actually he added that I personally don't like it. I personally don't like it as a devotee." So that's okay. I take your point about new people. We can put it somewhere, but personally not like it as a devotee. How can you not personally? Because it is Krishna. It is Lord Nrsingadev. It is his leela. So this liking or disliking was more on the emotional, mundane level. We know that is a spirit, that is a particular leela. Of course, Hiranyakashipu was his devotee, and all this was arranged. So the point is that we have to understand things nicely, but it's not so easy for the conditioned souls. It should be right. The person, especially the personal form and all the qualities, it's very difficult to understand through our imperfect speculation, as Prabhupada says here. So, the beginners can try to imagine the form. And then on top of it, Prabhupada ends by saying, Virat Rupa as exhibited by Lord Krishna to Arjuna is a challenge to the unbelievers. So, as I think as Maharaj was saying yesterday, that, this imaginary form you can conceive it, Sukadeva Goswami spoke in this way, and at the same time, Krishna manifests the Virat Rupa. It can be imaginary or Krishna can manifest it, and yet he is separately constituted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it's a very amazing position as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I'll read this again if anyone has any questions or comments. Modesty is the upper portion of his lips, hankering is his chin, religion is the breast of the Lord, and irreligion is his back. Brahmaji, who generates all living beings in the mature world, is his genitals, and the Mitra, Varunas, are his two testicles. The ocean is his waist, and the hills and mountains are the stacks of his bones. Any questions? Comments? Okay. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you for the wonderful class. Very entertaining.
Holiness Ramai Swami Maharaj ki jai.